Welcome to Why Should I Invest? Developed by the International Collegiate Angels Network, or ICAN. At ICAN, we believe that campus-born ventures are today's most underappreciated asset class. Each podcast will spotlight a campus-born founder and the venture they're building. I'm going to ask the tough questions that investors would want to ask. And welcome to another episode of Why Should I Invest? I'm Dr. Tom Duening. Today I'm here with JSarkar, who represents a company called reThink64. Jay, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Tom. Nice to be on here.
Yeah, great. Well, I'm fascinated by what you're doing. It involves nanotechnology, and it's a challenge to explain it. But I do think that you're in a really cool space, and I'll give you an opportunity to kind of just give us a high-level overview of what your company does and what it's all about.
Yeah. So, there's been a lot of kind of excitement about kind of the next generation of medicine, right? And we're seeing that, more recently in mainstream evidence, like the COVID-19 vaccine with mRNA, or Ozempic, you've heard of, which is a peptide-based drug. CRISPR, very popular, very exciting technology. These are all very cool kind of modalities for drugs, right? So that has been kind of in the back burner for a while. People are trying to materialize them. On the other side, you have AI, very transformative technology, right? Bringing things faster and higher scale. And so we see these synergies, and we see kind of the number of drugs that are being developed. But there's kind of a dirty secret in these solutions, actually. So you can make them, but you can't actually deliver them in the body. This is the main challenge that actually bottlenecks a lot of these new drugs. So, just for scale, the traditional types of molecules, small molecules, there are about 13,000 of those drugs out there. Mm-hmm. For these kind of drugs, DNA-based, RNA, peptide, looking at maybe less than 50 or so is really a small pickings. And it could be largely because of this challenge of getting it into the body and getting into new tissues. And so what we focus on is actually creating not just next-gen drugs, but next-gen delivery, and using AI to really develop these new tools and these new avenues.
Yeah, so drug delivery, that's an interesting way of casting it. So when I think of drug delivery, I'm thinking about somebody sticking a needle in my arm and it's like, I guess that somehow it's going to be delivered throughout my entire body as a result of just the circulatory system. So dive deeper a little bit into what you mean by drug delivery.
Yeah. So there are actually many components, right? So you talked about administration, right? That's the very first component to delivery. You can even go back to how does it even reach the patient? That's also a very critical challenge, right? Sure. Because we have things like cold chain and supply chain issues and stability issues, right? Okay. So there's everything along the way there. But our focus is partially the stability as well, but really about delivering into cells. Right. So when we think of your traditional molecule, we don't really think about once you get into the body, it should be there. We don't really think about where it needs to go. We kind of have a general sense it'll go to that tissue and then we're done. Usually the challenge is keeping it out of other tissues. That's the bigger hassle, off target. But with these larger molecules, an mRNA or, CRISPR, these are, 2, 3, 4 orders of magnitude bigger than the other types of drugs. So they don't get into the cells by themselves. You need to escort. You essentially need to smuggle them into the cells. Wow. So that's where these kind of nano formulations come in. They can really capture the drug in a little delivery truck. And that's how they kind of sneak into the cell and actually get you the effect you're looking for.
Wow, it's amazing. It's like you guys cover the last mile of drug delivery.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay, so I'll use that terminology from the ground transport. Well, I remember a movie, this may be way before your time, called Fantastic Voyage, where they injected a little ship into the bloodstream. I think Raquel Welch was in that movie. But maybe that's why I remember it. I don't know. But
it's like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids kind of thing, too.
Something like that, yeah. But so you guys have developed the technology then using some kind of nano chambers or something, and according to the information that was provided to me, is your technology can hold 1 million times the capacity of traditional LNP delivery systems.
That's right. So the idea, when we started out, I had worked in my last company. I'd actually built mRNA drugs, and that's what we were working on. And we would use those traditional LNPs. And the challenge there has always been, one, the stability. We remember during the pandemic, everything had to be frozen and it had to be moved cold and actually getting to the patient cold. And then concentration, the other half. So even if I'm injecting in the arm, a majority of it is not staying in the arm. It's going into the bloodstream and going out of the body. So these were two things that were weighing on my mind when I was working, at my last company. And, I was fortunate. I had an exit and we were successful, but very limited in use case. And so we wanted to see, is there a way to, one, stabilize, and two, concentrate the delivery? So for the stability, we said, okay, instead of working with these nanoparticles a priori, if I make them in the lab, they're unstable. What if I created a mothership, a larger structure that can store it stably, and then when it gets to the body, it creates these little nanoparticles, kind of like its own, daughter ships that it's emitting.
And you're talking about molecular scale motherships.
Molecular scale. This is all tiny, right? You'll never be able to see it by the eye, but Right. So this has a lot of resonance. You talk about production on site, right? This is a paradigm used in a lot of sectors where if I'm trying to keep something fresh, if I'm trying to keep something concentrated, I'm going to try to be efficient. I don't produce it somewhere offsite. I produce it as close to the consumer as possible.
Right.
And so imagine that now the nano and micro scale actually happening right in your body or on top of your body, depending on how you apply it.
Wow. And so your delivery
we call it the
system,
Nexus. Yeah,
the Nexus delivery system. That's a great term because it actually scaffolds itself to the target cell. And then somehow, it's got some intelligence in there. And
yes,
you guys,
yes.
This is what makes it so interesting to me. And you guys have developed, I guess I would call it smart molecular systems that understand how to attach, number one, to the target cells, and then how to release the medicine into the target cells.
That's right.
Using the nanotubules.
Yeah.
That are in the membrane of the cells.
Yes. So you got two options, right? So we built, using the AI, we can really high throughput this stuff, and we can make a lot of cool new mechanics. Wow. So you touched on the nanotubes, right? So that's a very advanced mechanic. Yeah. So what's happening there is, I described you can emit little nanoparticles.
Yes.
Or instead of, think of it like a bubble blower. If I blow a bunch of bubbles, that's the nanoparticles. If I slowly pull on the bubble wand, it makes a tube.
Yes.
And so it's kind of a different regime, but there you can actually literally transport it into the cells. You can attach and transport it into the cells. And all of these are, brand new. Like you said, it's like molecular machinery. We're creating a lot of logic into the system. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And you're using AI in a rapid prototyping kind of a fashion? Is that
essentially? Yeah. Because, now we're entering the regime of really understanding how distribution works. It's no longer, I put in my molecule and at the very end, I look at how much the patient received or what the effect is. Really, to build something new now, we need to understand what's going on. And for that, very difficult to do as just as a individual observer, but AI has that capability. It can understand very complex mechanics.
Yes. Right.
And that's what we bring in. Exactly.
Is it using some kind of digital twinning technologies where basically you're simulating what a cell would be like at the target point?
Well, we want to get there. That is a little bit advanced. But right now, so what we're doing is we're actually visualizing and parsing out the dynamics. Let's say, I have 20 different chemistries I want to try that either do the nanotubes or the nanoparticles. And I want to really build this out. Well, to really understand the whole dynamics of that, how the tube is growing and how the bubbles are being emitted, things like that, it's going to take a lot of work and data processing to get there. With the AI, I can very quickly parse out those data sets. I can pull out the statistics and saying, okay, if I use chemistry A, then I'm going to get 5 times more particles. I'm going to get a more directed stream. I'm going to get larger particles, smaller particles. I can really tune exactly the behavior I want with this now high throughput platform.
Right. And your applications right now are focusing on dermatology primarily?
Yeah. So this is a trick actually that a lot of delivery technologies have used historically. So, I very much like to hearken during the pandemic because everybody knows that example, right? So the pandemic, they used what you brought up, LNPs, lipid nanoparticles.
Right.
The precursor to that, they started not in vaccines, they didn't start in cancer, they started in topical formulations. That's actually where a lot of this starts. Because if you think about it, the FDA bar, the regulation is a lot lower for something topical than it is injected, right? So that's why some of the dermatological indications make sense as a very first step, very great area where we already have clients. I mean, there's already ready to go access and ready to go interest.
Yeah, I see
and then
that.
and then we'll build out to other applications. We have delivered in the eye before. We've delivered to the liver, pancreas, other internal organs as well.
Were these other applications? Were these in testing, or were these actually with clients?
So these were with Stanford, actually.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the academic kind of connection, things like that.
Stanford.
So I didn't introduce myself as well, but I'm originally from Stanford, graduated there, went through the Stanford Accelerator program, StartX, and so I have a lot of ties with Stanford. So we have about 4 different PIs working with us who are building some of these more advanced applications. So we have a guy on heart, we have a guy in eye, we have a guy in liver and pancreas.
Yeah.
These are all kind of their area of interest that we build out.
Yeah, you got a great team. I looked at your team.
Thank you.
Tremendous team. Tell us a little bit about the clients that you don't have to name any clients, but tell us about how it is that, that you interact with the client and well, let's just use the standard term. What is your selling proposition to the client?
Yeah, exactly. So, it is, of course, everybody has different value props they're looking for depending on their use case, right? But the ones that we're getting from the first traction, especially in skin, is penetration. The real value is penetrating. If I'm applying something topically, how deep can I get? How much of my drug can I actually get into the tissue? So interesting enough, our first clients are coming from my background. In my last company, we did a lot of aging stuff, and so this is the community that kind of naturally knows. I have a little bit of a name in that space, so there are people who know me, and I've built that connection. So they already have products on the market. They're making like 9-digit revenue already every year, and they're looking for the next gen. They're looking for what else can I do to improve the distribution, take more market share? Can I get into, more effects? Can I broaden their use case? And a lot of that comes through delivery. If I can deliver better, I can improve my utility of the products I have in the market.
Right. So you're working with drug developers, and you would license your technology to them, basically. Is that the
Nexus
so technology?
That I'll say is the very near-term value because it's immediate funds in the door. We're already getting revenue that way. We're getting a consistent stream that way. At the same time, we want to package our own drugs too. There are lots of molecules, you can even say generics, that exist that if you can reformulate it, if you can deliver it better, brand new drug product and very fast to market because you've already cleared the product and now it's just better delivery.
Right. And so I'm assuming that you guys have a lot of intellectual property around this stuff.
Yeah. So we work with one of the most aggressive law firms, I'll say, in the Bay, Wilson Sonsini.
I know Wilson Sonsini.
Yeah. So you probably, so they are very good. There's a guy there that I've known even from my last company. So I'm a physicist. I'm an engineer by training, not a biologist. And I think that way. I think of principle. I think of mechanics, and he thinks the same way. Even though we're biology and we're focused on that, we're taking very big spaces because it's brand new mechanics. I'd say.
Yeah. Well, interesting. And I lost my train of thought. But you guys have raised $1.7 million so far. Is that correct? Is this all equity capital, or are you talking about some non-equity capital as well?
Well, so the 1.7 would be the equity. We of course have now revenue too, so you can add on top of that if you'd like.
But NSF or something like that, you're not getting.
So we have tried. We had a good shot at one, but the political climate unfortunately pulled some of that funding. So it happens. But we've evolved. We move. Depending, it's the startup culture, right? You have to move where the markets are going. So there we had we were working on mRNAs and my history in mRNA. But as everybody kind of very publicly knows, mRNA has been slashed in terms of the budgets there. So even though we had a good application, it's unfortunate. But
that's correct.
Yeah.
And you're currently raising how much?
Yeah, so we're raising 4. And the idea is that, we have different, I'd say, trajectories based on where the markets are going. So we have kind of a sustainability. We have our own revenue coming in. So we're happy and we can progress this way. We're going from client to client to client. That's great. But we really need to scale. We want to scale. That's where we're at. We're at that kind of growth phase. So we can take on multiple clients. So we can take on multiple indications. We can actually grow. And that's where the 4 million is coming in. We have different tranches in terms of how quickly we want to grow. And we're trying to really take advantage of this time that we have.
Right. Did I see that you've got a couple of business development folks?
Yeah,
on your
so
team? Yeah.
we got one guy from Harvard and one guy from Wharton. So it's or one
I
gal.
saw
From
that. It's
Wharton.
like,
Yeah,
boy, this is the Ivy League of companies here. I mean, I've got to be careful here.
yeah.
So
I mean, yeah.
Go
I
ahead,
can tell
please.
you, like both of them, it's
Yeah.
interesting. Like I would say all our team are somehow also scientists. It's interesting. We all have backgrounds in
Yep.
science, but I'd say half of my team, including myself, kind of lean also business, and we've had some experience business.
Yeah.
So they've done the business schools there, but they've
Right.
also in their past lives, like one had worked at Alnylam, which is the biggest siRNA company, that historically has been. And the other has worked in hospitals and worked in clinic-facing applications, things like that. So there is that kind of first-hand experience with the market, not just kind of the business high-level sense.
Yeah, well, Harvard and Wharton. I mean, I hope it'll be interesting to see how the two can work together. That'll be the challenge.
Plus Stanford, right?
It's
These are
Stanford. Wait a minute.
weirdos, I suppose.
Wait a minute. And then, what do you foresee as an exit strategy on this?
Yeah. So, a couple of things, and I always emphasize this when I talk to investors or clients, whatever. Every time we do a licensing deal, that's a partial exit for us because we carve out some of the IP, they own the IP, they move it forward. So that is already in where we're headed with the current
And then
application.
is there recurring revenue associated with that licensing then?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
There's a
Right,
royalty,
of course.
right? There's that
Got it.
continual
Yeah,
in.
Of course.
Now, of course, we are building, because we have our own targets in-house too, we are building our own products there. So I'd say we're kind of a product factory, right? Where we're generating, it's not about just acquiring one product, we could generate lots of products, and that's where kind of we play.
But the core product is the Nexus technologies.
Yes.
Yeah,
So if at some point, you get enough interest, and we're talking to big players now. We're attending a conference next week that's going to have a lot of people there that we're marketing to, and if somebody says, I don't really want pieces of your technology, I want the whole bloody thing, then of course you make a deal with us, we'll go for it, and it's a full acquisition.
Make me an offer I can't refuse, right?
That's right. That's right.
And so I like to end each podcast with the simple question: why should I invest?
Yeah. I'd say, look, the writing's kind of on the wall. There is a lot of pent up energy in building these new drugs, and AI is just fueling it even more. And if we do not do something about opening up the delivery aspect of this, all of those are just going to sit on the shelf. They're just going to be there. I mean, all of this investment is great, but they don't enter that, what you brought up, the last mile of actually getting into the cells.
The last mile.
If we don't get there, none of this materializes. So I'd say, if you really want to get on the next wave, it's delivery. It's going to be the thing, for sure.
Interesting. Well, thank you very much, Jay. We're talking today with Jay Sarkar from reThink64. Fascinating technology, fascinating team, and fascinating company. Thank you very much for being a part of our show today.
I appreciate the time.
For more information about how you can get involved in the ICAN mission, please contact me directly via email at tomdenning@icanhub.net.